like.
If everybody's ready, I'd like to bring the board meeting to order. Fred, bringing the board meeting to order.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thanks for pointing me out. Appreciate it.
Well, you were talking.
I wasn't the only one, thanks.
Start with the pledge. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Before we get to the adoption of minutes, I'll say it before citizens' comments. Can I get a motion to adopt the minutes from June 6th? I'll move that.
I'll second.
All in favor? Aye. Before citizens' comments, the town clerk is not here tonight, so please, if you're going to come up, if you choose to state your name, you don't have to give your address, but please speak slowly because I'll be taking the minutes best I can. The clerk will go from PAC-B. That being said, citizens' comments for the last 5 months, I've tried to make this where it's civic. Some people have chosen to not make it civic. If you have any gripes about the town, please keep them about the town. If you have problems with a specific department head or the way we run something, come up and talk to me after a meeting or call me during the day and schedule an appointment. This is supposed to be for the help of the public to get the opportunity to try to talk to their board. It's not a character assassination. Unfortunately, some people feel that that's what this is every 2 weeks, and I don't understand why. I've tried to make this what previous supervisors have not, and a few people tend to ruin it for everybody. And that's unfortunate because I want people to be able to come up and ask their elected officials or department heads something that is pertinent and something that might help the whole town or something they have an issue with that all of us might not realize. But some people choose to just make it vendetta-like and keep hammering on the same things. So when you get up, I'll probably ask you what you're going to talk about. And if you're not going to tell me, I'll probably ask you to sit down. Thank you. That being said, I'll open the citizens' comments.
I'm Liz Schmidt, I live on Hayes Road, and now I'm a little scared, so thanks. And I'm actually going to talk about the problems that I have with the Tiki Bar establishment down the road from me.
Okay.
All right. I speak here tonight because it's actually a demoralizing anniversary. It is 2 years since the day I first came to this board and asked for some help. It was June 16th, 2022. It was my first attending a town board meeting, and now you haven't gotten rid of me, along with some neighbors, to help for a bar that's scaled. It's scaled to this large outdoor concert venue with exterior speakers. And for those not here, there was a work session where you've addressed some of the general town code issues that might affect my issue, and I appreciate that you pulled your attention to it. But I decided to come and do citizen comment today because I wanted, as a matter of public record, to really update what has kind of happened in the past 2 years on my forced civic education, let's call it. Shortly after, we did meet with the what was the former supervisor, not the current one, town attorney and code enforcement office. Those meetings happened in private, which is why I wanted to update here in public in this meeting. Shortly after my comments, we did discover that, first of all, some of my neighbors came and complained in the summer of 2018 that it just scaled to be kind of unbearable. They had actually sat down with the supervisor then, a different supervisor, and code enforcement. 4 days after their complaints, a controlled site review went forward to Onondaga County Planning Board. The neighbors were never informed that that was in the work for this site. So really, 4 days later, code enforcement prepared a controlled site review that went to the board in July to talk about the problems, and then the town planning board met September 13th, 2018, promptly 1 month after the neighbors had asked for a follow-up and had never received it. It was just town officials and the proprietor of the bar. There were no public hearing and no notification to the neighbors of the Hayes Road about this controlled site review. The review is a joke. I would encourage people, you could FOIL the review, you could ask me, and I will send it to you. It's just very sloppy. It's filled with errors. No prior operation is a restaurant. The wrong speed limit. Hayes Road was allegedly 35 miles per hour. It's not. Failure to mention nearby residential properties to indicate them in the review. The presence of sufficient on-site parking, when in fact it heavily relies on a third-party lot across a 55-mile-per-hour road. The existence of all required permits from the DEC. There's no permits for over 200 tons of fill that have been brought to that site, and there's not a single permit for it. The controlled site minutes for this review, basically someone says, well, some neighbors complained. That is the extent. So that whole meeting with the neighbors was actually absent. I'm not even sure how much the planning board knew about it when they made their decisions. I can't tell from the minutes. It characterizes this bar as a restaurant with 24 spaces allocated to the restaurant and the remaining allocated to the marina. The actual operations have scale. It is a large outdoor music venue and bar with hundreds of patrons on a given evening. Meetings were met with the claim that certain activities were grandfathered. We were never giving sort of the materials that told us that what activities were grandfathered and how they might have existed before changes in zoning, about an outdoor band or speakers. We feel at every step, I think this bar was given every consideration. I think that controlled site review was a concierge service from code enforcement to get them in line with what they were allegedly doing. And yet, it was very hard for us to get information. And I once told my husband at one of these meetings, why are we worried about solar farms? We could get all the generation power we need from gas lighting that's actually going on with this board. We requested to meet with the planning board in 2022. We were denied. We were told it's not something they took up, and they would not give us the meeting. Meanwhile, the problems continue. The bar's live music, exterior speakers, continues to exceed the NORS ordinance. We have carefully documented and measured this. Patrons continue to park at the boat launch, sometimes trapping boaters for hours who can't get their trailer in around all of the cars. My husband has been harassed to the point that he doesn't walk the dog on our street anymore. We go to the park to walk the dog. He wears a body cam when he leaves his house to go for a walk. And we installed a home security system for protection. This past Saturday, June 15th, there were about 1,000 patrons on site easily. The bar's own lot, the leased lot across the street, the filled boat launch, and all the street parking along Hayes Road, right under the no parking signs. At least one boater was trapped for about an hour because their trailer was blocked, potentially impeding emergency vehicles, patrons with open containers, crossing a 55-mile-per-hour road. We're approaching Independence Day weekend, and the bar will likely, as they have done for years, have an aerial mortar-based fireworks show. No permit. They're illegal in New York. Look, I'm not the fireworks police. I enjoy a good display. My neighbors, once a year, have at it. But this site is small. It has limited egress. The river's on one side, there's an inlet, and there's fencing to control access to the bar because there's a cover charge on a lot of weekends. So there's limited egress. The site is small. There's a 2,500-gallon fuel tank on site. And that's not including any fuel storage on the boats in the inlet or parked on the side. Right? We brought these concerns to the code enforcement office, and we were informed that they didn't give a permit. They wouldn't ever give a permit to that site. It's not acceptable, and that it was a law enforcement issue. So I was hoping for a little proactivity of saying, hey guys, don't do this because it's really dangerous. Something might explode. But they didn't really see that. Just saw it as a law enforcement view. On the 4th of July night or those weekends, law enforcement has a lot to do. And I don't know that that's a priority, in fairness to law enforcement. To offer an analogy we can all understand that seems very appropriate for this meeting today, the situation stinks like a failed septic system in clay soil. That's for you. Like that? Thank you. It stings for us in quality of life, but it stings. So let me tell you personally, it stings in an establishment with bad actors that repeatedly laugh at rules. Derelict on taxes and well over 5 figures. Permits, doesn't bother to get permits until they're actually caught. Repeated noise violations. Parking, right, really appropriating a publicly funded lot for private use, and so much more. Really, it seems to operate with impunity. With really no serious consequence at the expense of these residential neighbors, firefighters, nurses, veterans, educators that form a community. And it stings. It just stings that local government has appeared to us to favor these establishments over residents that work hard, play by the rules, and just want the quiet enjoyment of the home. And it's kind of made me feel like a sucker for all these years. There's been a really convenient narrative that there's just a few difficult people like not to mention names, but Lysander, so us, we're the difficult people, that we're old fogies and NIMBYs. I feel like the villain from Footloose, you know, the kids just wanted to dance at their prom, and I wouldn't let them, and I'm no fun. Which I love that movie in high school, so it's like come full circle that I'm the villain. But this narrative just makes it a lot easier to disregard the problem. My husband and I bought that home 25 years ago last April, and we raised our family in it, and I've never complained to the board or code enforcement until 2022. I coexisted with all sorts of commercial sites. With neighbors, run the power saw, knock yourself out. Doing a chainsaw carving, great, you do you. Whatever. I tried to coexist, and honestly, as this bar scaled, I still tried to coexist. You know, this bar really scaled to concerts really since 2016. It started to become a big problem. And I tried to coexist for like 6 years, right? And before I actually wanted to do something.
I just want to remind you the 5-minute limit.
Okay, so really close. One last paragraph. Bringing it home. I'm bringing it home. And so I have had neighbors come in tonight behind me to support me. And they were kind enough to do that because I want you to know it's not just 2 people that come. It's 2 people that are stubborn enough to come, and maybe that is an issue. But there are others, and the harassment has had a chilling effect. And I wouldn't ask my neighbors to stand up and face what my husband and I faced from that establishment and its patrons. So that should bother everyone of good conscience when people don't want to stand up and speak because of that. So we begin this year with new leadership, and leadership that reinstated citizen comment. And I thank you, personally, Supervisor Rode, for doing so. As unpleasant as it is, it's fundamental to democracy that citizens have the opportunity to bring issues to the public in a documented form as a matter of record. So I come to the board again to ask for advocacy with the expectation that the town will enforce its own code. Bad actors act in bad faith, repeatedly, and are only controlled with consequences and enforcement. Without these, a government fails in a fundamental duty to protect its citizens from bad actors, and the social contract that binds this community crumbles. We deserve better, we'd like to be a priority, and we're not going anywhere. Thank you.
Please refrain from an excellent speech, but clap at the end after the meeting's over.
By the way, we can give you the pages that we wrote.
That would be great. Thank you.
Ed Schmidt, Dave Road. I won't be as long as my wife was.
Never.
Really, I just wanted to follow up on what she was talking about for safety, noise, and harassment issues. I'll start with safety. You already saw the video we sent you last year of how dangerous it is for people to cross Hayes Road. We had the drone footage that we showed up there. You know, people are going in all directions. There's no street lights. There's no crosswalk. Cars are still parking on the road, as you heard. It's hard to see. Everyone's been drinking. Oftentimes, they're still carrying their drinks. And the speed limit is still 55. People are backing out from the bar's lot into traffic among the pedestrians. There's no safe path designed for the pedestrians. And really, it's only a matter of time until someone gets seriously hurt. Last year, for example, one of the patrons from the bar was just so wasted, he walked out in the middle of Hayes Road and sat down. And, you know, by the grace of God, the next person by didn't run him over. They're actually one of the neighbors coming home from work and stopped and helped take care of the situation. But it is just out of control there, and no one seems to be willing to help. Hopefully that's changing with this meeting. We wrote our pages before we knew that this was even a discussion. But it's been a real problem. Liz mentioned the fireworks. As she stated, you know, we like fireworks as much as everyone else. We're very patriotic people, but it has to be done safely. The bar areas get blocked by water on 3 sides, right? There's a huge fuel tank, 2,500 gallons or something huge. And when he does his fireworks, he shoots them up in the air, and all the ashes come down and land on the boats and the people and the fuel tank. And it's just crazy. There's very limited ways out. You know, people are drinking. There's a huge potential for disaster with fuel and whatnot there. And you know, so far the town has looked the other way. We specifically brought it to the attention of the town last year, saying, "Hey, you know, once again, we're not being unpatriotic. We just think this is irresponsible." And we were basically told, "Not my problem," and that's just inexcusable. This brings me to the noise and harassment. The bar, as you're well aware, continues to play music too loud and too late. Excuse me. The town's been thus far unwilling to enforce the noise ordinances, or to my knowledge, even do a reasonable sound check. 8 of us neighbors came in and talked to the prior supervisor and code group. And basically we're told that, I lost my place here. We were told to move for one thing, which was, can you imagine that, telling your constituents they should move? But basically we were told, I totally lost my place here. Oh, that they when you did sound readings and they were all in compliance, that because of the way the rules were written, they had to ask permission before they went because they can't go on the property without permission to take the sound reading. And we knew this was, it was an insulting answer because we know that the sound reading is taken at the perimeter of the property and you don't have to go on the property to do it. And why would you call ahead? It's just going to guarantee that you're going to get a passive grade. And then it was followed up by the prior supervisor who said he even went out another night on his boat and took another sound reading right next to the bar, and it was only 30 decibels, so we're just crazy. But if anyone who knows anything about decibel readings, 30 decibels is widely considered the sound of a soft human whisper. So that's really not possible when the bar's playing music. So many people are there. Besides playing music too loud, we're often exposed to foul language being broadcast through the neighborhood in the lyrics of the songs and from the band's announcements. And karaoke night, it's from some of the bar patrons. We have young children in the neighborhood. We have a nice family that lives right around the corner from the bar. They could probably hear people talking in the bar without speakers. And this is just unacceptable. One of the neighbors sent a video example to the board last year that showed the extent of the problem, and some of you expressed surprise and actually expressed outrage about it, yet nothing was done. It's very frustrating. Just so you understand the impact, one of my neighbors told me his grandchildren aren't allowed to visit him at his house anymore because of what comes through those speakers. And it's wrong. It's just wrong. You're also probably all aware that the bar owner doxed my wife and myself when we first started complaining. He published our names, address, and phone number on Facebook and suggested that his customers should harass us. We ended up getting some calls, which we did, we blacked it out on his collars and that took care of that. But they also were driving by the house honking, screaming, throwing beer bottles at the posts at the end of our driveway, revving their engines in front of the house, spinning their tires, all those kinds of things. Well, another set of neighbors has recently started complaining too, and the same things are happening to them now as recently as last weekend. As a matter of fact, if you drive down Hayes Road, you can see the skid marks in front of their house for people burning out in front of their house. Not this year, but last year, one of the neighbors actually had a beer bottle thrown at his head when he told some of the bar patrons they weren't allowed to park in his grass. It's out of control. I've been taking sound readings at the DEC boat launch to document the sound issues. The bar owner's taken to driving out with his golf cart to harass me while I do that. Saturday night, I actually went down and took some pictures of people parking illegally on the road. He followed me in his golf cart for hundreds of feet, bantering or picking on me from across the road. He followed me into the DEC launch where I took the sound reading, and then when I turned around and done with my sound reading, he was there with another guy, and then they're basically, I was threatened 3 times that night. It's a lot of harassment we're dealing with here. These are just a few of the examples we're facing because the bar owner, we can't sit out on our porches and enjoy a peaceful neighborhood anymore. Nightmare exists because the town appears to have taken shortcuts in the approval process, refuses to enforce its own ordinances, and so far refuses to advocate for us in any way. As we read them, the zoning, parking, and noise ordinances are all on the side of the neighbors, yet this town so far has refused to help us. The bar owner is way behind on his taxes, he's not following the sound rules, he's co-opted the public vote launch to the extent that voters can't use it on certain nights. He doesn't even live in Lysander, so he can't vote in town elections. It's just baffling to us that the town has repeatedly sided with him instead of its own citizens. Town code of
Mr.
ethics.
Schmidt, you're at the 5 minutes.
All right.
Go ahead and just sum it up, or,
Yeah, I actually had just 3 lines, so it was very
Okay.
close. Town code of ethics says that all employees are required to conduct their personal business in affairs in such as a way to avoid conflicts or even appearance of conflicts with the interests of town of Lysander and its residents. I'm kind of concerned that's not being met just by who we see coming in and out of the bar as patrons.
thank you. Is there anybody else that has comments, citizens' comments? Mr. Birch.
Fred Birch, Plainville Road. I'd like to talk about special election, spray park, DEC boat launch, and tiki bar.
Special election.
We have a special election Tuesday in our
Yep.
town. 2 of our frequent flyers that normally come to our meetings, Mr. Dinsmore and Mr. Brieri, are part of that election process.
Right, but
Just
this
to
isn't a political
remind the folks at
grandstand.
home that a lot of people might not know. Okay, second thing, the spray park. I think we set a record there today with the kids in the spray park.
Okay.
Unfortunately, none of them were from the town of Lysander. 4 school buses pulled in there from Phoenix and unloaded all the kids. Happened to be when I was going down there on my bike, I was gonna use 90, but all I had was my Speedo, so I didn't want to get the girls all excited and everything, so I decided to forego. And I don't have a single problem with anybody coming from out of town and using our park. I think that's wonderful. Did a lot of that when I was a kid. What I have a problem with is our board that's been on an amenity that our kids don't seem to be using that out-of-towners do. I'm just wondering, we should have just given a grant to Phoenix or Granby or Cato or Jordan or Lakeland, have them build the spray park, and then we could go there tax-free.
The spray park was built with federal funds. Part of that caveat was you can't charge, you can't limit.
Okay,
So that's no different if you go over to Camilla's.
So-
You
so-
go
so
use that
I
spray.
appreciate
So-
that.
So that's the same standard.
as far as the $35,000 that we paid on not winterizing the spray park properly, and they're having to pay a 5,800 fee to fix the controller and the valves, and the $30,000 in water we wasted, did the federal government pay for that, or did Lysander taxpayers pay for that?
The Lysander's taxpayers paid for it.
I would have liked
That wasn't totally everything, that wasn't just involving
It
water.
wasn't winterized properly. We have a
I believe
professional.
most of that bill was a sewer fee associated.
Okay, well, we have a professional in Baldwinsville that is the foremost sprinkler person in all of New York State. His name is Steve Bano. Give him a call if you want it done professionally and you don't want to pay $6,000 a year. I have idiots closing
Thank you
down.
for the
Okay,
advice.
Thank you for that. Saturday night, I was fortunate to go out on a boat out on the river, took my cameras with me, took the drone, tried to kill a couple birds with one stone, take in some music, do some fishing. So I got back to the boat launch about 8:30, and the person I was riding with had their trailer and boat completely locked in by vehicles that had parked there. Probably, I don't know for sure, but probably for another venue. In the process of that, I saw another boater come up, same situation. I asked that boater, how often do you frequent this boat slip? And he says, quite often, usually on the weekends. Have you ever experienced a situation where you could not get your truck and your trailer out to get your boat out in a timely manner at this location? He said, yeah, 3 weeks ago. So this is not a single thing. So we proceeded to call 911 and ask for the non-emergency number. One boater had called and got state police. One boater had called and got sheriffs. I waited there for 2 hours and 45 minutes. We never saw anybody. As a matter of fact, one of the boaters walked over to the tiki bar, asked the manager if they could come have the patrons come over and move it. She says, unfortunately, if you were to go over and get plate numbers and description of the cars and bring it back to us and we announce it over the PA, maybe some people will go over there and move it. I was like, oh, wow, geez, we'll do the work for you. So hour and a half, hour 45 minutes go by, you could get the truck disconnected and drive that out into the road. Another 15 minutes, we could walk the trailer out, get it into the road, hook the truck to the trailer in the road, back from the road into, this is so big that you're supposed to be able to do turnarounds. There was 70 cars in that parking lot and blocked vehicles in. So that's a situation. I called the DEC on Monday, informed them that They said they've received so many calls and complaints from the bar next door. The bar next door actually put 2 tiny signs the size of our no parking on the side of this, that say no tiki bar parking, but apparently idiots attend their events because nobody paid attention to it. And I did have an otherworldly experience. I saw 10 moons that night. One of them was 240,000 feet away. The other 9 had their shorts down to their ankles and bending in between some cars and weighing on the DEC boat launch. So that's what the neighbors get to see. My camera saw it. Be honest with you, I didn't mind it that much, but I can see where some neighbors would mind it. And then that segued to my last thing, the tiki bar. So I put the drone up in the air, just wanted to see what was going on with the festivities. And I noticed that they have 4 porta potties for 1,000 people. I saw a line of 15 to 20 people, and I have it on video and in picture, at each porta potty. That's why the girls were going over to the parking lot and whizzing. They didn't want to be 15th or 20th in line. That's unacceptable for the amount of people they have there. While we were there sitting and waiting, I said, geez, why don't I buy some time? Got on my phone, did some YouTubing, researched tiki bar. I found a video that's 3 years old. And some news agency came to visit with the owner, and they did a news clip, maybe 2 or 3 minutes long. I think you should all go to YouTube and watch it. Just put in tiki bar, Baldwinsville, Lysander. You'll see the 2 videos that are there. He explained how he started his business. It was just a marina. Then they wanted to have coffee and drinks for the boaters. And then it's the next thing that he said that I want you to pay attention to. He said, and it kept getting bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger. I think he said it 6 times. So if you don't want to believe the folks that are here tonight, the witness to what they saw, just go on YouTube and watch what the owner has to say about it. Do I have any time left?
You're a minute over.
Sorry, appreciate it. Thank you for that.
I wrote down 6:50.
Thank you. I wish you would have told me. I would have stopped with that. I appreciate that. Thank you.
Is there anyone else who would like to speak to citizens' comments? Nobody else? We'll move on to the next item on the agenda, town board comments. I'll start with you, Mr. Jurasik.
Stick to the agenda tonight, and I thank everybody for coming out.
Mr. Moore.
Yeah, I'd like to thank everyone for coming out as well. Thank you to everyone who spoke, and thanks for watching on PAC-98.
Supervisor's comments. Is there anybody in the audience, and I should have said this at the beginning, that was here because of the stop signs at Tall Tree and Forest Ridge? We have tabled that motion. I will be in touch with the neighbors regarding what the board's path is on that. That being said, work session items. As Mr. Birch mentioned, next Tuesday is primary day. Just so everybody understands, all of your normal voting locations will be open in the town of Lysander. Sometimes the primary's small, they only have it here at Town Hall. You will report to your voting locations that you go to in November. Early voting is still open. Town of Lysander is not a location. The closest one to our town is Town of Clay. I believe that ends on Sunday normally. I'm guessing, go to ongov.net. You'll look for Board of Elections. All the information will be there. Times, if you want to go to early vote, I believe the normal primary hours will be 6 a.m. to 9 p.m. as normal. Don't quote me on it though. The next item, I attended the housing study tonight, or this afternoon, from our county, put forth a housing plan. It's under Plan Onondaga on ongov.net. Go to the departments, go to planning, and then you'll see over on the side it'll either have Plan Onondaga, or you can Google housing study Onondaga County, and it's one of the first links. Please look into it. There will be a push, if you haven't read the papers, from the county about density and development and differing our views in the suburbs as they have for the last 50 years. There's a lot of interesting parts of information. The county has also said their consultant would be available to talk, probably virtually. I think he's from either Maryland or the Northeast. He would be able to go out and talk to individual towns or villages if they have questions on what the path of the county feels moving forward with the imminent arrival of Micron and the time frame we would need to have the housing, appropriate housing for. That is all I have right now. I will get to department head reports. I'm gonna go through all the department heads first, Al, and then we'll do the sewer study presentation. Mr. Rivazigno? Nothing. Ken?
Just a thank you to all the residents of Chatham Woods. The project was done during the hottest week of the year. I just appreciate all the patience. Thanks to the guys from Suco who did the work. And one public service announcement, please pay attention to roadside mowers, tractors that you may see either in the median or off to the side because they're usually unprotected. And so with that, just the agenda.
Thank you. Al, is there anything? I have one thing before you get to the housing stuff. Mr. Rivazigno, would you stand up, please? Tony's gonna be leaving us. I get all choked up when people retire. I'm gonna have like 20 of them the next couple of years. But Tony's gonna be leaving us. He's moving to better weather. Is there a town you've never represented? I don't think there is in Onondaga County. But Tony made a little award for you for your Town of Lysander official recognition. The Lysander Town Board would like to recognize Anthony Tony P. Rivazigno for his years of service as general counsel to the Lysander Town Board. Tony's been our attorney since 2012. It's been great. You know, I wish you great luck in the future. Come on back up. You'll never be, you know, feel free. There's your presentation. Could you zoom in on Tony and show him your plan, please? It's been a lot of fun. He will be missed. He has, we've engaged with a serial law firm to take over for Mr. Rivazigno when he does move away.
He'll be in good hands. After 54 years of law practice, it was time to call it quits.
Tony went from what, the DA's office to the...
Yeah, well, I became the county attorney in 1992.
Nice. He's covered all different facets.
All the
Town
towns.
governments, county, Posida. He's had a hand in it. So if there's anything in the last 30 years in Onondaga County, his name's probably on its own. Thank you for your service.
Thank you.
Kevin and Sen, Al has the Cold Springs sewer study presentation. Mr. Yeager, thank you.
So the board authorized CHA to complete the study back in May. Actually, I think we might have approved the expenditure in March, and the study was completed in May. If you have, this is just a cover page. So the study area is essentially everything from Patchett Road, south, east of Barbara Lane, all the way to the Seneca River, bounded by the limits of the Timberbanks development. This has been a long-term need. It's identified as an area that needs sewers in the 1962 county sewer study that was done when the Baldwinsville-Seneca Knolls treatment plant was originally envisioned. It was originally discussed that the county was going to construct a trunk sewer to serve all of the property east of the treatment plant. At the time, there wasn't density to support construction of that trunk sewer, and it never happened. In the meantime, various court cases, it was determined that counties could not directly fund trunk sewer construction. Those costs had to be borne by the residents in the individual districts that would support the infrastructure long term. So that was never built. So we have this spread out pattern of development on the Cold Springs Peninsula that is not supported by sanitary sewers. Next slide, please. So we have several developments that have existing dry sewers, they're called. So these developments were built with intention that sooner or later infill development would occur and they would be able to connect to the sanitary sewer system. Those neighborhoods include Orchard Estates, which is Gloria Drive, the Whitetail Woods neighborhood, the Landings neighborhood, which is the 3 cul-de-sacs at the eastern end of Doyle Road, the Springbrook neighborhood, which is Olive Drive, Brickwalk, and the Amelia Park neighborhood. All of these areas are, other than Whitetail Woods, approaching 25 to 30 years old. They're all neighborhoods that were envisioned in the 90s. Next slide, Ken. So the current issues that are affecting the study area are Seneca River pollution, existing private septic systems are not meeting current design standards, contributing to pollution in the waterway. Climate change is increasing flood risk along the Seneca River, further contributing to pollution. When the Seneca River goes to flood stage, many of the existing septic systems just don't function as intended. Many of the existing septic systems, including in the new neighborhoods that have drive sewers, are nearing or past their anticipated service life, resulting in expensive replacement costs for existing residents. I know several residents that have recently had work done on their septic systems. Right now, construction costs for a conventional system is generally greater than $20,000, and raised bed systems start at about $40,000. These are large numbers for our existing residents when their septic systems start to fail. And we have still have large tracts of undeveloped land between the wastewater treatment plant and the existing population included in the study area. Population trends. So we've, from 2010 to 2020, we experienced about a 0.6% growth in population in Lysander. Pending Micron's arrival and expected creation of 50,000 jobs, the town of Lysander is going to experience development pressure, and part of the area that is designated to handle that pressure is the incentive zoning areas on the Cold Springs Peninsula, including Belden Farms, some of the Abbott parcels on the east side of Hicks Road, and those areas there. Undeveloped land, that's direction of the town board, undeveloped land included in the sewer study was projected to be developed at a density of about 2 units per acre. So we, the total density of the study using the 2 units per acre directed by the board, including the existing residents, it equals about 3,200 households are affected by this area when fully built out. Next slide, Kim. So part of the problem with sewering the neighborhood is we have undulating terrain, high points, low points, which requires the construction of pump stations, lift stations to get that sanitary sewer waste back to the wastewater treatment plant that's on the western end of the sewer study along Barbara Lane. So this figure kind of shows where the high and low points are. I think everybody can hear me if I don't use the mic. I just kind of want to point some things out. So one of the pump stations that's included and proposed in the study is this low area here, 2 high points on either side. The low area down here where the Melvin Farms parcel is, and then there'll be pump stations out here on the eastern end of the peninsula as well. Next slide, Ken. So we looked at 3 different sewer alternatives as part of the study. The first alternative is always no action. We're not going to do anything. And the second alternative was gravity sewers with 5 pump stations and a wider low-pressure sewer area, which is grinder pumps at individual homes to convey waste to a centralized pump station, which will ultimately pump to the wastewater treatment plant. And then alternative 3 was additional gravity sewers with 7 pump stations and very limited number of houses on low-pressure grinder pumps. So alternative 2 is, it includes 5 pump stations, one being one here in the Melvin Farms project, one over here that would be part of the incentive zoning area that's included in these 3 or 4 parcels here, a pump station for Whitetail Woods, a pump station out at the end of Doyle Road to convey the waste from the Landings and the Merle tract here, back up to Doyle Road, a pump station at the end of Hillside Drive, where the old tank farm was, essentially, which will ultimately be redeveloped as part of incentive zoning. Low-pressure sewers around Hayes Road, the Red Rock neighborhood, low-pressure sewers and grinder pumps along Patchett Road. This is the recommended alternative. Next slide, Ken. So this alternative, I know this is hard to read from where you guys are sitting, it is $35,309,000. These aren't small numbers for the town of Lysander. We've never done a project that costs that much in the town of Lysander before. Next slide, Ken. Alternative 3 has less low pressure sewers. We're trying to serve the Red Rock neighborhood, the Hayes Road neighborhood with gravity sewers and a centralized pump station. Still have low pressure sewers up on Patchett Road, still have some low pressure sewers down on the eastern end of the peninsula by Hillside Drive. Ultimately, this is a more expensive plan. Next slide, Ken. So this plan is $37,600,000. The recommended alternative is alternative 2 with a few more low pressure grinder pumps to serve the low-lying areas along the river. Next slide. So what's this going to cost everybody? That's the big ticket item here. So right now the annual county sewer treatment charge is about $445 annually. So the anticipated annual debt service with undeveloped land developed at 2 units per acre is $621 per year. That's with no developer funded infrastructure. That's just if it was built and the infill development happened. The anticipated debt service with undeveloped land developed at 4 units per acre is about $420 a year. So there's a significant decrease for the homeowners. The anticipated debt service with undeveloped land at 2 units per acre with the town supplying the low pressure grinder pumps for the low-lying areas brings the debt service to $726 per year. So if there's no development, if just the existing residents on the Cold Springs Peninsula constructed all the infrastructure that needed to happen, the debt service would be $2,152 a year, which I don't know if anybody is willing to accept that number.
And Al, that's in addition to the annual county sewer.
That's in addition to, yes, the county sewer charge is completely
changes
separate.
every year.
Yes, yep.
It goes up.
Yep. So these debt service calculations, we're using a 5% bond rate, which is a little conservative for a 30-year term, and no developer contribution. So that's the developer, the infill development isn't being constructed on the developer's dime. So. So we're looking at, and it shouldn't just say developer contribution, it could be developer or grant funding contributions. So if we were able to secure $24 million in developer contributions or grant funding, the debt service drops to $203 annually. If we can secure $12 million in debt service or developer or grant funding contributions, it drops to $412 annually. So these are numbers more in line with what I believe residents would be willing to pay for sewer service on the Cold Springs Peninsula. So, you know, our biggest move here is, and the supervisor and I attended a consolidated funding application seminar today. You know, the board, we're hoping to get authorization from the board to move forward with a consolidated funding application to apply for New York State EFC's Clean Water State Revolving Fund grant, Water Quality Improvement grant from the DEC, Environmental Facilities grant for Water Infrastructure Improvement Act. That one might be a little tough to qualify for, but it's worth a shot. And apply for additional funding through the Infrastructure Investment and Job Acts that was passed in 2021. So, you know, these are real dollars. This is real costs. This is a real need for the community on the Cold Springs Peninsula. I think a lot of you folks here on this side of the room are here to hear about this because they live in neighborhoods with dry sewers that, you know, they were told that eventually they're going to get to connect to, but so far we haven't, you know, that hasn't come to fruition. There is a project that is pending for the Melvin Farms, which would be the first step of this. If the developer contributes, you know, the infrastructure to sewer, the first step in getting sewers to these people, it'll make a big difference in the debt service that you folks have to pay. And, you know, it takes that fear in the back of your mind of, hey, when my septic system fails, I'm gonna have to shell out a whole lot of money to replace it. but I've got these dry sewers in my front yard that could convey this waste if there was just a way to get the waste to the wastewater treatment. So, long and short of it, this is a need. The town recognizes it, I recognize it, I'm sure the residents recognize it, and you know, we look to the board and the community to support moving forward with fulfilling this need that's been recognized since really 1962. Especially on the east end of the Cold Springs Peninsula, you have little town like Jean's neighborhood. You got little tiny lots with septic systems on that by today's design standards, you couldn't develop those lots of that size with septic systems. You just couldn't fit them. It's a need. It's an environmental concern. There's neighborhoods that on a warm day in the summertime, even during dry weather, boy, you take a good whiff in the ditches and it doesn't necessarily smell like stormwater. It's true. And it's areas that are right near the river and directly discharged to the river. So it's contributing to pollution in really what is our community's most valuable asset of the Seneca River. So happy to answer questions if people got them at this time. The study is posted on the town website. Please take a few minutes to review it. Feel free to email me, shoot me a phone call. Happy to answer any questions you have. Fred?
You listed the amount of houses, homes that would be affected by this that can kind of, do we have a number of houses that are located in that area that might not be a part of a development that aren't going to be able to hook onto this? Do we know
this would
that?
serve the whole development area.
So anybody that's within that line on the outside is going to be able to have a
would
connection.
ultimately long-term be able to tie in, yes.
Okay.
Reading the study a few weeks ago, I noticed the marginal cost between 2 and 3. I mean, it's a few million, so I'm not trying to say it's trivial, but when you split the debt service, it will not be huge. I guess I have some concerns living on Hayes Road about the long-term operational effectiveness of low-pressure sewer systems.
So I'll say this, we have done those in the town in the past. West Genesee Sewer District is on them, Blue Ridge Circle, Goodfellow Lane.
Whispering Oaks.
Whispering Oaks is not. These are grinder pump systems. So the way this is envisioned, as the town supervisor asked for, the $726 number, the town would own, and when there's a problem with that grinder pump, Onondaga Water Environment Protection would come out 24/7, fix your grinder pump and get you back in service. And those costs would all be borne by the overall larger sewer district to serve those pumps. So the long-term cost of those grinder pumps would be borne by the homeowner under that scenario.
And the reason I asked for this is when my parents moved to Fairhaven 20 years ago, and they were under DEC consent to run a system. Cayuga County decided to put the grinder pumps within their right of way, and they take care of them. And I don't want to see an issue where someone doesn't have the money to fix their grinder pump, and now we have a sewage issue along the river. So that was one of the reasons I asked them to put it in the price, because I think that system functioned well in Cayuga County. And the long pole, I couldn't see people taking care of it themselves.
Right.
You know, if it was left, someone moves out of a house or something happens, it gets foreclosed on, and now that's just
I
sitting
guess if you're
there.
thinking in development, it seems like the margin to 2 additional pump stations seems to be a wiser move. If you're uncertain about future development in this area, I'm not sure if we're going to go whole in on this project, why wouldn't you actually have the full pump station amount?
So the 2 pump stations that are needed, that are outside of what would be developer constructed areas, those pump stations, the cost of those pump stations would be borne by the residents that are served by those pump stations. So your cost, as in the folks on Hayes Road, would be significantly higher to fund the construction and debt service of those individual pump stations.
And is that like county or state rule about how those are funded, or is that like a decision?
It's a state
thank you.
special
Oh, this,
law.
I mean, this is a process.
Yeah, this is not going to happen.
Right.
This is not going to
Please
happen.
don't think that we're coming to you this summer with a sewer district. It took us this many years to get to the study, but we need the study to open up the possibility of grant funding.
I'd just like to say that we moved in 2003, and we were told that around the corner, we were going to have, and we have been waiting ever since, so, go for it.
At what point, how significant is this to Palmer Elementary School? And at what point is it going to be required? I mean, it seems to me, with the number of students, the population in that building is going to go up to 600. Is there a choice?
There's a need, and the sewer, the school district is already.
Or the appropriated funds, but is there a choice before somebody would say, shut it down?
They wouldn't say shut the school down. They would put them under a consent order to fix the problem.
How can they fix it without the town?
They can, the school district, because they are their own taxing entity, could construct a pump station that would serve just the school district and use the public right-of-ways to convey that waste to the wastewater treatment plant. And they would not be obligated to hook up any of the residents that front that
Right.
force main that serves just the school district. Beyond just the school district, the Red Rock Hayes Road neighborhood, with the known pollution of the Seneca River, it is probable, and I've been saying this for a few years, it is probable that sooner or later the DEC is going to slap the town with a consent order and say you need to provide sewers to this waterfront area, and it's going to be a big number. With that being said, generally when you get put under a consent order, you score very high on the water quality improvement grant funding application. So they do try to help you, but it really does force the issue. It's a known problem with the development pressure that we're going to see in Onondaga County from Micron. Now is the time to apply for these grants. We have a high probability of receiving some funding, even if it's a zero interest loan from EFC for the improvements. It will make a significant difference. Even if we get nothing other than that, it's a couple $100 a year in debt service costs for the residents that are benefited by a loan like that. So now is the time to apply. We plan on working with the town board to put an application together before the July 31st deadline for consolidated funding, and try to move this project forward. With that being said, I know that there are people that don't want to see additional development on the Cold Springs Peninsula because of traffic and because of all the other issues. But the bottom line is, without some infill development, the cost for the existing residents is going to be exponentially higher to get sewer service. Go ahead.
There's an interior plumbing transition cost going from the septic storm to the sanitary stores. Is that the individual homeowner that's responsible for that?
It is. We can't spend government funds on private property. So that would be a cost that would have to be borne by the homeowner. It really is, it varies on how far you have to run your sewer lateral from where your septic tank or your septic system comes out of your house to where you tie in at the public right of way. So, ballpark numbers, if your house is one of the houses on Hayes Road that's only 20 feet off the road, well, geez, your connection cost is going to be much less than somebody's house that is 100 feet off the road. It's just a function of how far your house is off the road, how much that connection costs.
So with the dry sewers in, we've eliminated that cost, right?
Yeah, it's just
the inside.
Yeah, it's just a conversion inside the house. Some of the developments, they ran the sewer lateral from the dry sewer into the house. Some of the developments didn't do that. It's all depends on when your neighborhood was developed, kind of, more than anything. Mr. Rowe?
I just want to correct what Kevin said. They didn't do the grinder pumps on the right of way. We all signed easements for them to put the grinder pumps on our property.
But they're under, the county takes care of it.
Yes, the county.
It's not the individual homeowner.
Right.
That's
right.
that was the main.
Oh, okay.
Thank you.
Gene?
I could come and see you in your office, but I'm just, lot of people keep asking me if you're gonna go down the west side of Hayes Road or Hicks Road or the east side, because there's a big barn close to the road on the east side that they're very worried that that's gonna be destroyed, but I don't know if maybe you haven't got that far yet, are you?
And then we haven't designed, obviously, this is just a conceptual, this is what the cost is for the number of feet of sewer.
That's what I thought. It's too early to worry about it.
Yes, once we get into final design, we would look at that.
Yeah.
Obviously, we would try not to affect any private property structures with this construction. There certainly is room on the west side of Hicks Road to construct those sewers.
There we go. There's more room on the west side. Leave that barn alone.
Just real quick, I remember when I was a kid, so 50 years ago, my grandparents had the grinder pump set up, and it just never worked. Has it improved since then?
Yeah.
Please tell me.
Yes,
Please.
yes. It's like everything else. Those systems, I mean, life expectancy for a 4-bedroom house with 6 people living in it is about 15 years for one of those grinder pump cores. So yeah, they're kind of bulletproof now. I mean, I've seen videos of people flushing like Matchbox cars down the toilet, and those grinder pumps will chew it up and spit it out. So they just don't. It's not like the old school grinder pumps from when we were kids.
But when the power goes out, can you just not use toilet?
So there is some holding tank capacity within the wet well.
Okay.
So you would still be able to use the toilet. By Onondaga County Plumbing Code, however, there is a requirement that if your power goes out, there's an actuator on your water service valve that would shut your water service valve off until the power came back on. With that being said, a generator obviously fixes that problem. The county also has generators, like if that was a prolonged period of time, the county has generators on their service trucks. All of the control panels for the low pressure grinder pump systems have plug-ins so that they can plug a generator into the control panel and pump you down if there's any prolonged power outages. Mrs. Rowe?
You do have to remember though, when you're on the grinder pump, that everything, even your gray water, goes to that grinder pump. So if your power does go out and you do have some capacity in that grinder pump, you do have to remember that running your dishwasher or taking a bath and a shower all the time. We were forced to crush the septic tanks. You could not send the gray water to them. Now, I don't know if they'll let you do that here.
No, that's a state plumbing code issue. That's universal.
So you do have to be aware of the fact of just what everything goes to the grinder pump.
Additional cost for fill.
So, and they did come around, we were without power for 4 or 5 days, and they came around every night with the generator truck plugged into the panels and pumped them for you. So.
It's RG&E, folks. We have a bunch. Having watched them for 20 years in Fairhaven, the wind blew and they lost power. We are very fortunate in Lysander. We don't run into a lot of those issues on the peninsula.
Right.
First of all, appreciate your presentation and learned some things. Second of all, not saying that they haven't been, but I would like to see the town of Lysander be completely transparent with all the homeowners who are affected in this area. Like my mom said when I was younger, life is like a teeter-totter. Every time one end goes up, the other end goes down. So the people might be able to get their costs lowered and they'll be able to poop 24/7. But are they going to be able to pull out of their driveway or off the end of their street within 10 or 15 minutes? Because we're going to have 1,000 more houses and 600 apartments to facilitate the cost of doing this. I just like the town of Lysander to be transparent with the people and also inform them about the decommission of their septic. Some people might be facing larger costs for fill than others, and that's all I'd ask you to do. Thank you.
When we get to that, obviously, when we get to the phase of actually forming we've secured some funding, or a developer has come in and constructed the first phase of this project, and a sewer district is formed, those costs would obviously all be discussed by law before that action took place.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, I couldn't possibly see this being built all at once.
No, well, yeah, this is gonna have to be a phased approach, and that's just the bottom line. The first phase would be Melvin Farms being developed and the pump station, the force main being connected. Due to the size of that pump station, it is going to need flow right away to avoid having a high pressure hydrogen sulfide buildup from sit time in the wet well. So at that time, we would also look to run sewers up Hicks Road to serve Palmer Elementary, all of the houses on Hicks Road and in Orchard Estates. We would connect Amelia Park and Brickwalk at the same time, and we would be looking to do that low pressure grinder pump system for Red Rock and Hayes Road to get that flow to that pump station to keep the detention time down to an appropriate level so we don't have hydrogen sulfide buildup in that pump station.
So is that first phase, would that include Camerondale or just those with dry sewers?
We would try to do Camerondale and Gloria at the same time.
Oh, sorry.
When do you anticipate the first phase to be completed?
It really depends on when the Melvin Farms project moves forward. If Melvin Farms project is approved in 2024 or 2025, and starts construction in 2025 say, we would be looking to, at the same time Melvin Farms was doing the construction of their infrastructure, to start moving forward with sewer district formation in 2025 with construction in 2026.
Who should approve that Melvin Drive? Is that something that?
That's a town board function.
Town board?
Yes.
It's a town board function, and because it's incentive zoning, the developer would have to come to us. Came to us a year ago. We have yet to see another proposal after the public opinion and, you know, what they took back, a public proposal. So it's on the developer side. I know people have waited over 30 years for this, and it's an empty promise that was made by the town. It's unfortunate because you look back at that 30-year, the planning for having dry sewers and the lack of the next part of that coming along, and we're at a time frame where we're going to have to look into these dry sewers. Al has inspected them from time to time. They're pretty good. They haven't seen much service, but you know, they are 30 years old, and to me, this is the first step of a promise. And as Councilor Geraci's alluded a lot of times, we used ARPA funds to help pay for this. This was not a cheap process, but I felt, and the board felt, that it was necessary. Let's look at everything while we have a chance, because it's taken us 30 years to get to a study. Hopefully it doesn't take us 10 years to start doing something.
You know, if it doesn't get approved, or it doesn't go through, or the developer doesn't come back, but, you know, I don't want to do it. Is this study done?
So no,
the study still stands.
Yes.
Yeah, the study allows us to apply for grant funding. With that being said, one of the things the developer was waiting on was this study to be completed.
I see.
As a catalyst for what he's trying to do and to get support for what he's trying to do.
So, wouldn't you want to know what the grant funding you were going to get first before you went to the developer for something? That way you know what to ask for,
Well,
and you know what...
Quite honestly, we'd rather have the developer pay for the...
No, I understand.
And then use the grant funding to assist the existing residents to connect, to build the infrastructure to connect to the pump
Ultimately, a
station.
developer builds a development. He puts all that in. The developer puts the infrastructure in.
Right.
The town has no cost. Where the cost is going to come is connecting to the existing people, running the pipe in between where there's not going to be development. And there's no way the whole peninsula ever gets developed.
Yeah.
Between wetlands, floodplains, there are so many factors that will prevent full build out in any kind of shape or form of the peninsula. But the reality is when you look at those density numbers, that's what's going to play into your long-term, what it's costing you annually. And we all know that doesn't go down. You know, the county got smart 10 years ago with this annual sewer fee that, you know, Executive Mahoney started, Executive McMahon. They did have a vision of a long-term planning for debt and, you know, fixing. You see what happened in the city of Syracuse. Everything's 100 years old. It fails, it breaks. They didn't have that plan. You know, the county's tried to get out of it, and even with that, over at the main sewer plant on the railroad track, every year, they fix that pipe 10 times, should be a brand new pipe by now, but that's how expensive it is to fix it, that the county pays the DEC, and let them fine them for having sewage going down to that creek. Obviously, if we want to build an aquarium down there, we're not gonna have sewage out of that creek, so that's where some of the money's going. But this is a huge cost, and you know, trust me, the board doesn't take this like in any kind of future development, has to have that thought process in mind of what it's going to cost. You know, a developer come along, it'd be great if we found a developer that said, hey, I'd only love to build 2 units an acre and I'll give you $18 million to build your sewers too. I don't think that guy's walking through the door anytime soon with costs, you know, but you never know. Also, it all depends on the county, because we don't have the pockets.
Excuse me. I don't want to belabor the point, but it's been said by a few people here, including Mr. Birch. We're between a rock and a hard place on this issue because we have two very conflicting things that we have to deal with, and they really are apples and oranges. And one of them is what you heard just now, which is this incredibly expensive sewer plant, which you can't afford, or we can't afford it. The residents cannot afford it as is, and you know, except if there's other monies coming in, and one of those other monies, you know, hopefully there'll be a lot of grant money. But the other catch-22, and this is what's troubling me personally, sitting as one of your board members up here, is the carrot that's dangled by developers that said, well, we'll pay a bunch of this for you. It'll change your community. It'll completely change your community in terms of what Lysander and specifically Cold Springs looks like. We have to grapple with that. I'm only one person saying what I'm saying, but we need to hear from you. If the Melvin Farms, as an example, gets developed, that's going to change Route 370 in the entire village of Baldwinsville like that. So I'm not saying I'm against it, but that carrot is really a scary carrot in terms of accepting it, in terms of what developers may offer us to offset what you're going to have to pay, and we can't throw it at you that you're going to pay the whole shooting match. So I just want you to appreciate that.
And that carrot that Councilor Drossey's talked about, the last time it came before us, it was 588 units. So it's not it's not 100 houses, it's 588 units right down there in order to
in order for step one.
In order for step one. So it is a big
lot strategy, like right across the street is a different lot that's not a part of that, they'll get more units, right?
Exactly.
No. This is where the 30-year. Sorry, Pete.
No. But I just wanted to,
remember
back up a little bit with what Councilor Drossey was saying. It's a double-edged sword. We want sewers, we want to protect the Seneca River, but we also want to protect our community. And so they're not easy decisions. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
There will be a solar farm as you travel toward Liverpool that isn't there yet. So, what the Melvin proposal entailed was using about a third of the property for that density and keeping the rest green. And, if you look at smart growth and planning, and if you listen to the county over the next couple of weeks and Mr. Waffner starts coming around the villages to try to push this plan, the higher density is obviously cheaper. If you have 300 people living in a half mile, it's a lot cheaper than 300 people living on 6 miles. You got less infrastructure to run, you've got less roads to take care of. Everything gets cheaper from a developer perspective, but at what cost does that come? It comes with the character of a community. The reality is we've built dry sewers in areas we've never connected over 30 years. And on one hand, the town and the planning board made a promise that we have never come through on, that if we developed at that current level, that cost doesn't go down. That cost stays around that $2,152 range. it doesn't become attainable. You know, that is not any kind of cost that somebody can afford between your other special district costs, your drainage districts, you know, the lighting districts, and just your regular taxes, so.
So the areas that are targeted for the development are the red striped areas on this map here. And those areas would be allowed to be developed at a higher density than the AR40 that's currently allowed. There's some things that have changed since this map was adopted. This parcel here has been bought by Nature Conservancy, so it'll never be developed. It's got a forever protected. This parcel here has been approved for a solar farm. This parcel here is encumbered by flowage easement and wetlands. So really, the Melvin Farms project, the development is really going to be only on these two parcels. This parcel here remains in incentive zoning. This is Collington Point, obviously that's already under construction. This is infill development here that also has wetlands restrictions, so the whole area is not going to be developed at 2 units per acre. It is significantly less than that. And if you actually look at the documentation in the study, it calls that out. And this area here, again, behind Waytail Woods, a lot of wetlands, a lot of encumbrances to and floodplains to actually developing that area in the future. So really, we're limited. We have limited development potential in the incentive zoning areas as it is. And these areas here, the way along Patchett Road, the Abbott's Farm parcels themselves are, those areas are still in an AR40 zone, so they would not be developed at a high density. They would have to be developed with private roads and acre lots. And that's the way the study was laid out.
Is there anyone else?
Anybody else?
Very nice, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for coming out, guys.
Thank you.
And obviously, we'll keep everybody informed. This is not something that's just gonna appear on an agenda. This is a long and involved process. And we're taking the first steps past the initial phase. I thank you all for coming. Thank you. And if you have any questions, feel free to call, email, reach out. We'll get Mr. Yeager's presentation up.
Yeah, it's already on the website. Dean's got it posted right on the front page. You know, take a look.
And if you don't have, my email address is up there. You can email the town clerk or planning, and they'll forward the information to us, and we'll try to answer the questions that you have. Okay, that being said, we will...
If you don't want to stick around, we understand.
Yeah, you don't have to stay if you need to go. It shouldn't take long, but regular agenda items. Motion A. I'd like to get a motion to approve the budget transfers provided by the town comptroller.
You gonna move it? I'll move it. I'll second it. We have to take turns.
Okay. These have been up on the website for a couple weeks. This is all year-end items to make line items balance across the accounts. Our town comptroller, Colin Zapizek, will be here at the July 18th meeting. We're going to give an overview of 2023. That being said, remember Colin started in January of 24, so a lot of what happened in 23 wasn't under his purview, but I will try to walk him through it just to give people the high points, where our fund balances ended up, what we have, what we're moving forward on, and just a general recovery of the 2023 budget. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, motion B was tabled. Motion C, I'd like to get a motion to authorize town supervisor to sign the statement of intent for the Onondaga County Hazard Mitigation.
I'll move that.
I'll second.
Discussion. What this is the county sent this out to me. They have, it's first step in their process of dealing with county hazards and health issues from a county standard. So the first part is getting all the towns and mayors to, town supervisors and mayors and governments to sign on to it, and then that will move forward at the county level. All in favor?
Aye.
All yes, motion carried. Motion D, I'd like to get a motion to authorize the town supervisor to sign the CHA Lysander landfill monitoring proposal in the amount of $10,550. This is a New York State DC mandated monitoring program that is a budgeted annual expense.
I'll move it.
I'll second it.
Okay. Discussion. As it said, this is something we have to do every year on our landfill, monitoring. All in favor?
Aye.
All yes, motion approved. Motion E, I'd like to get a motion to hire Christopher Todd as MEO in the Highway Department at an hourly rate, which both of them need to be corrected, of $23.75 per hour as per the union contract, with a starting date of June 24th, 2024. My turn? Yep, I'll move it.
I'll second it.
Okay. Discussion. Ken, on both of these are just replacements for retirees, correct? Okay. Very good. Anything else to add, Ken? All set?
No.
Okay. Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Or, I'm sorry. Yes, motion approved. Motion F, I'd like to get a motion to hire John Leonardo as MEO in the Highway Department at an hourly rate of $23.75 as per the union contract, with a starting date of June 25th, 2024.
I'll move that.
I'll second it.
Discussion, same as before. All in favor?
Aye.
All yes. Motion approved. That being said, we had no executive sessions tonight. We don't have any pending after, I believe. So I'd like to get a motion to adjourn the meeting at 7:45 p.m.
I'll move that.
I'll second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion to adjourn. Thank you. Have a good night, folks. July 18th will be our next meeting. Thank you. Have a good 4th.